Hi folks, introducing the Kasea, I think that's how you say it, Adventure Buggy. This is 125 cc's of fun when it was all put together again. One finds these on Craigslist fairly frequently, and a lot of times they're in the condition this one is. This was a $125 deal, and I just want to do a quick assessment of it. There are two ways to look at this thing. The first way is parts, and that's if you need the parts. If you don't need the parts, then you don't have too much interest in it. The second way to look at this thing is, boy, this is important to me and I want to put it together and I want to drive it. So the two ways to look at it. First of all four tires hold air. Though I have to admit, this tire, I had to change the valve and reseal it to get it to hold air. So, 4 tires, you know, if you're looking at it from a parts point of view, that takes you a long way toward getting a lot of your money back, right? Suspension, you know, front and back seems pretty good. It's relatively tight, not brand new tight, but relatively tight, which is all good. From a steering point of view, the front tires are aimed at each other, so I'm pretty sure one could adjust that out with these two rods. This one and this one, you just kind of center the steering wheel and then adjust each tire to make it proper. So that shouldn't be that big a deal. The steering appears to be in good shape. It's not worn or no teeth missing, you know, nothing damaged there, which is all very good news. The pedals are there. So front end, let's go with pretty good. Yesterday we looked at the rust. I don't see any rust that would be like, you know, terminal. It needs to be dealt with before it rots through, but I wouldn't really consider anything like to the point of it's going to kill this cart immediately. If it's not dealt with, it could, right? If you get water in this thing and it freezes and cracks, or you know, one gets salty water in there from riding it on the beach or from riding it in the winter, it wouldn't be long and one could get that kind of damage. But right now that's not where it is. The back, what's wrong? The back bearings went bad. Two ways of fixing it. I looked this up on a website, and it looks like by the time you get, there's a plate that kind of locks over this and a bearing that goes inside and a couple of other pieces. Anyway, by the time you're done with everything and multiply it by 2, you're somewhere around $80, 75 to $100. It is like 27, 28 millimeters. So I looked at it and I'm going to see if there's a standard size, you know, 1 1/8, 1 1/16 pillow bearing that I can put, you know, cut this off and put it here, then perhaps reinforce it so the axle doesn't shift around. You know, this is an adventure buggy, right? You're supposed to be going out and riding it for an adventure, right? That doesn't mean just up and down the driveway. And even just up and down the driveway, right? These tires are pinned together, right? So you would be putting quite a bit of torque on the rear end on sharp turns, even on blacktop. So it's good to make sure if one uses pillow bearings that a little extra reinforcement is there. So should you buy this thing just to turn it into a roller, you got 125 out and let's say it costs another $100 to get the rear end into it, get the back axle hooked up. So the rear axle back into it. So you're already just cruised your way right through 2 1/4. Let's take a look at the motor. This what's that again? I think you guys can read that. Kasea. I didn't see anything that made me say, oh, here's the date code, so I'm not sure what year this is. I'm thinking somewhere around 2000. I'm going to say 2004 plus or minus 4 years. Right? I wouldn't be surprised if it was an 02, you know, even a 2000. I would be surprised if it's any newer than a 2008. So there's my best guesstimate. Back to the motor. Motor's missing. Exhaust is missing. Carburetor's missing. If you don't have those components, now the exhaust, probably the major part of $100. The carburetor and boot, $50, and the cover to go over the top. Right. So you're looking at another couple $100 there. Right, the flywheel cover, stator cover, whatever you want to call that. So you're very quickly on your way to $500 if you're going to fix this up and ride it, and it's worth about $500 running, in my opinion, give or take a little bit. If it were really pretty, maybe $750, $850, depending on the season. But one could see it's not like really pretty. So about the motor, we're looking at, I don't know, 145 for compression, which is really pretty good. This is a 125cc motor. I think it's an automatic, and I think that's a real kickstart. Do I know? No, I haven't tried kicking it, but I think the motor really is a automatic, like when it starts it goes type of thing. He said this was for the gears, but it only seems to go one way. So I'm thinking that's a Kickstarter, and the way it's spring loaded, I'm thinking it's a Kickstarter, even though I didn't try it. The motor also has another problem. It's cracked. Right, you guys see that nice crack right there. That, not good. How did it happen? I'm not sure. This motor is up here pretty high, right? I mean, the motor's mounted here. And it's the front of the motor, so the only way you're going to damage it by the front, especially if you're driving it, whatever damaged it had to get through you, get through the seat, and get to the motor. So I'm not thinking that's how it got damaged, which means I think it was damaged in handling after this motor was removed. This motor, if it looks familiar to folks, it's a copy, I guess. I'm not sure if they use the description GY6 as a generic description for this kind of motor, the way this is laid out, or if one would call this a clone of the Honda GY6 motor. I'm not quite sure how that I'm not quite sure where the terminology GY6 came from. I think it's a Honda description of the motor, and I think it's a copy of it. And they would call this the short version, the short tail, the short version. The long version is longer here. Generally speaking, you would normally find this kind of motor on a scooter. Right here would be the suspension, right, and there would be a shock back here. Your tire would be here, bolted directly to this output shaft. And it would, the whole motor would be part of the rear. The motor would be the rear trailing arm, if that's what we want to call it. The motor would be the rear axle. There would be a brake there. So the motor would be basically the entire drive chain and rear suspension for this bike. If I wanted to try to run it, obviously I'd put a carburetor on it. I don't know, gum this up, put rubber cement on it, or form a gasket or something to kind of seal the leaks here. Gum that up too, seal it up, get a carburetor onto it, and then it'd be a piece of cake to wire this thing. Blue and yellow, just hook that right to the 12 volt CDI box as the pulse generator input. Black, pure black is ground. That leaves 3, and one of them is red and black. That would be the power to the stator if I was using the pit bike AC hack. And white and yellow, those two guys would be the input into the 12 volt voltage regulator, and then you'll get the 12 volt out and charge your battery with it. So be a piece of cake to wire up and get it started and so forth. I'm debating whether I want to, what I want to do with it. You know, I'm probably going to put oil in it and see if it leaks, and see if I can't get it started. You guys know that I got that one off-road cart from Udizzy, and his off-road cart was also an automatic, I think, but his has reverse. His also had the longer version, and his says GY6 right on it, and his was a Tao, T-A-O. So I'm not sure if there's any engine parts that are interchangeable. If you remember, his bike or his cart was fire damaged. There was a leak from the gas tank that dripped right on the engine, and then the whole thing went up. There was an extreme exothermic reaction, and the engine got burned up pretty good. So, yeah, I'm not exactly sure what I'm up to with all of this. Probably this cart, what I'm going to do is pull the tires and set it up and go lean it up against something out back. Bring the tires in, and I'll probably put some more time into this when I have that time. I'm not dying for this thing to become a runner, so I mean, it'll be cool when it is, but I can take my time doing it. You know, something else I could do, like this yellow creature. It has a 3-speed plus reverse on it. I don't think it would be all that hard to fit that into this. And then this would be a 3-speed and reverse. That engine does not have reverse. And when you get to be my age, or even younger, a lot of people don't like to have to climb out and push it backwards and then, you know, go forward, especially if you're in a real tight thing and have to do that a bunch of times, right? It's much easier to just pop it in reverse and get it out of a tight situation that way. So anyway, there it is, guys. Let me know what you think. I read some of the comments, and I didn't feel like there was a lot of affection for this thing. it is what it is. And if anybody is going to say, oh no, it's this, it's you know, or that, or the other thing, no, it's a go-kart that was made out of metal. I mean, this is probably where somebody put their hands for getting in and out, right? You put your hand here, then climb in, or there and climb in that side, or in the center, you know, to kind of lift yourself up to climb out, right? So that's this metal was not treated very well. It was not, you know, I don't think it was the first paint job. The original paint job was all that hot a paint job. Doesn't seem, I mean, other than the front tires being messed up, it doesn't seem to be bent up, though. It doesn't seem to be torqued or twisted. So it must be, you know, pretty well made. Anyway, folks, I want to thank you all for watching and commenting and subscribing. Please remember to keep your feet down, keep your heads up, and get out there and enjoy each and every one of your days. Bye now, folks.